In an age carved from fire and ambition, a single decision reshaped the fate of the stars. Among the countless turning points of humanity's rise, none was more catastrophic than the War Master's betrayal. But imagine another timeline, one forged not by treachery, but by unwavering loyalty. Picture the moment the seeds of rebellion were meant to take root, yet never did. Suspicion never found purchase. Lies never reached the War Master's ear. The Imperium, poised at the height of its strength, continued forward under a unified command. What would the galaxy have become if Horus, son of unmatched brilliance and bearer of the Emperor's greatest trust, never turned? This is the chronicle of a universe spared its most devastating civil war, and a future darker in new, unexpected ways. At the peak of the Great Crusade, humanity's banners stretched across 1,000 burning skies. The legions marched in perfect formation, their fleets sweeping across the void with mechanical precision. Horus, newly appointed War Master, wielded authority equal to his father's, yet tempered with charisma the Imperium admired. The Primarchs, each a weapon sculpted for victory, followed him with conviction rather than obligation. In this alternate path, no whisper of doubt reached him, no poison words stirred brother against brother. Horus remained the keystone that held the vast structure of the Imperium together. His presence alone prevented rivalries from escalating into fractures. Where the original timeline spiraled into distrust, this one advanced with ruthless order and coordinated purpose. The first critical divergence occurs with Lorgar. In the true timeline, bitterness and humiliation pushed him toward forbidden influences. But here, the Emperor addresses Lorgar with calculated clarity, redirecting his ambitions toward imperial unity rather than blind devotion. The word-bearers become the Imperium's most disciplined orators, not seekers of unsanctioned power. Their influence strengthens the War Master rather than undermining the Imperium. Without Lorgar's resentment, the chain reaction that once doomed humanity never initiates. The War Master encounters no crafted temptations, no subtle manipulations designed to fracture his trust. Lorgar's stability alone prevents the cascade of corruption meant to engulf Horus. The seeds of rebellion remain buried beneath iron duty. With Horus unbroken, the Primarchs act with unprecedented coordination. Robout Guilliman's administrative genius enhances Horus's strategic acuity. Sanguinius's presence becomes a unifying emotional anchor, tempering disputes before they ignite. Even the more volatile Primarchs, Angron, Perturabo, and Kurz, remain contained through shared respect rather than resentment. The Great Crusade accelerates rather than fractures. Imperial compliance is achieved faster, with fewer internal conflicts. The legions push deeper into unmapped regions of the galaxy, encountering civilizations that, in the original timeline, humanity never had the strength to challenge. Every decision Horus makes is amplified by the trust of his brothers, transforming the Great Crusade from a conquest into a near-synchronized expansion of human dominance. In this timeline, the Emperor's withdrawal to Terra is met with complete acceptance. Horus does not question the motives behind the great project. His loyalty provides stability for the entire Imperium. The Primarchs remain focused on their campaigns instead of questioning their father's intentions. The Emperor's immense undertaking continues uninterrupted, paving the way for an era of strategic advancement rather than collapse. Terra becomes a bastion of coordination rather than a political fulcrum waiting to detonate. With the War Master serving as a flawless extension of imperial will, humanity's expansion is no longer halted by internal distrust. Instead, the Imperium evolves into a structured system capable of reaching regions that would later be lost in the fires of civil war. The forces lurking within the warp lose the opportunity they once exploited. Without Horus's vulnerability, their influence disperses into scattered attempts instead of sweeping corruption. They attempt to sway weaker individuals, but none hold the authority or charisma capable of triggering a galactic fracture. The Primarchs, unified under Horus, unknowingly disrupt nearly every manipulation before it begins. Worlds that would have become corrupted strongholds remain stable, quietly strengthened by a more coordinated Imperium. The slow erosion of imperial control never takes root. In the absence of their greatest potential pawn, the warp entities must evolve new strategies, strategies that demand subtlety instead of overwhelming destruction. And in doing so, they sow the seeds of something far more patient and far more dangerous. With stability across imperial domains, the Mechanicum experiences an era of accelerated development. No civil war erupts to cripple their forges. Titan production increases. Explorer fleets travel deeper into uncharted voids. Lost technologies are rediscovered instead of dying beneath orbital bombardment. The Imperium does not merely rebuild in scattered pockets. It evolves. Projects once abandoned become reality. The psychic burden that, in the original timeline, tore through humanity now receives structured control. The Imperium transitions from reactionary survival to planned advancement, guided by a war master who adapts quickly and rules efficiently. The Emperor's grand project reaches operational stages centuries earlier, changing the balance of power across the galaxy. A unified Imperium draws attention and fear. The Eldar sense a shift in the weave of fate as human expansion accelerates. The Orcs, attracted to escalating warfare, grow in number across the fringes. The Tau never gain the centuries of quiet growth they once relied upon. Instead, they face early Imperial pressure. Even the Necrons awaken sooner, disturbed by the scale of humanity's expansion. The galaxy becomes a theater of escalating confrontation, driven not by civil war, but by humanity's unprecedented dominance. While peace exists within the Imperium, external conflict intensifies. Horus's strategic genius turns the legions into a relentless force, capable of countering multiple rising threats simultaneously. The greatest tragedy of the original timeline, Terra burning beneath the weapons of its own children, never unfolds. No loyalist Primarch rushes home in desperation. No fortifications collapse under betrayal. Instead, Terra becomes a symbol of controlled strength. The Imperial Palace stands untouched by war. The Emperor invests his focus into long-term projects rather than desperate survival. The Primarchs visit Terra as leaders, not defenders. Humanity's greatest achievements remain undistorted by the scars of betrayal. The cultural and military trauma that shaped 40K's grim destiny never occurs. The Imperium grows harsher in its efficiency, but avoids the catastrophic wound that once defined it. With every victory, Horus's reputation intensifies, yet his loyalty to the Emperor remains absolute. He matures into a figure capable of managing not only war, but diplomacy, logistics, and internal administration. The Primarchs increasingly rely on him for guidance, forming a de facto council beneath his command. The Great Crusade transitions from expansion to consolidation as the War Master implements long-term structures for exploitation, defense, and governance. His leadership becomes so pivotal that humanity begins to shape its identity around him, not in worship, but in strategic expectation. The Emperor's vision becomes reality through Horus's execution. Their combined influence forms a dual pillar upon which the Imperium stabilizes. Yet unity brings its own consequences. With internal threats neutralized, external forces intensify their resistance. The Orcs grow aggressive in unprecedented numbers. Tyranid splinter echoes begin to stir at the galaxy's edges. Necron tombs activate earlier than predicted. The Eldar, foreseeing a future where humanity dominates, take covert action to destabilize Imperial influence. The galaxy does not become peaceful. It becomes more contested. The absence of civil war does not mean the absence of conflict. Instead, humanity faces a future of escalating warfare, not against itself, but against the universe at large. And with each victory, the Imperium's expansion becomes synonymous with inevitable confrontation. The Emperor, freed from the devastation of rebellion, completes his grand design. The human web of control strengthens, stabilizing warp navigation and reducing psychic catastrophes. Institutions that once fractured under pressure now grow systematically. The Primarchs transition from conquerors to architects of imperial stability. Horus becomes more than War Master. He becomes the Emperor's primary executor, guiding humanity into a structured golden era of expansion. Yet this very efficiency, this relentless order, casts a shadow across the stars. Every Xenos faction perceives humanity as a rising storm, organized, disciplined, and unstoppable. The absence of betrayal forges a future defined not by ruin, but by relentless expansion. The Imperium does not collapse, it tightens its grip. Worlds that once smoldered under orbital bombardment instead rise into industrial strength. Human culture expands with brutal uniformity. The galaxy braces for a new reality, an Imperium united under a leadership too cohesive to fracture. The darkness of the original timeline is replaced by a colder, more calculated era of domination. The War Master's loyalty reshapes destiny, but not into peace. Instead, it creates a war machine so vast that the galaxy must adapt or be consumed. In this alternate timeline, Horus's loyalty does not save the galaxy from conflict, it only redirects it. Humanity avoids its greatest tragedy, but in doing so becomes a sharper, more coordinated force of expansion. The Imperium rises beyond anything it achieved in the true timeline, yet its future remains shaped by the same truth. The galaxy resists domination and war endures. The question remains, would this path have forged a stronger humanity, or merely delayed an inevitable reckoning? If you want more deep